You wake up every morning with this gnawing hunger, don't you? This desperate ache that sits in your chest like a stone, whispering that you need their approval, their validation, their love. You've been feeding this beast your entire life, throwing pieces of yourself into its mouth, hoping that maybe today, maybe this time, you'll finally get what you've been craving. But here's what Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago that you're just beginning to grasp. The very act of wanting to be loved makes you unworthy of respect. The moment you need something from someone, you hand them the keys to your kingdom. Think about it. When was the last time you truly respected someone who was desperate for your attention? When did you last look up to someone who bent over backwards, twisted themselves into impossible shapes, just to win your favor? You didn't. You couldn't, because desperation repels respect like oil repels water. The needy energy, the hungry eyes, the way they laugh too hard at your jokes and agree with opinions they don't even understand. It all screams of weakness, of incompleteness, of someone who doesn't know their own worth. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, but what he really meant was this: it is better to be whole than desperate. It is better to stand in your own power than to kneel at someone else's altar. The prince who rules from a place of need will always be overthrown by the prince who rules from a place of abundance. And right now you're ruling your life from a place of profound emotional poverty, aren't you? Your shadow knows this truth even when your conscious mind rejects it. That part of you that you've been trying to hide, the part that gets angry when people don't respond the way you want, when they don't give you the recognition you think you deserve, that's your shadow telling you that you've been playing the wrong game entirely. You've been trying to earn something that can only be commanded, begging for something that can only be claimed through your own self-possession. The pattern started early, didn't it? Maybe it was a parent who was emotionally unavailable, whose love felt conditional, whose approval had to be earned through performance. Maybe it was the kid at school who made you feel small, or the teacher who never saw your potential. Somewhere along the way, you learned that love was scarce, that it had to be pursued, that you weren't inherently worthy of it. So you developed strategies. You became the people pleaser, the overachiever, the one who always says yes, who never rocks the boat, who sacrifices their own needs to keep others comfortable. But here's the devastating truth that Jung would have recognized immediately. Every time you abandon yourself to gain someone else's love, you teach them that you're not worth loving. Every time you betray your own values to fit in, you broadcast to the world that you don't believe in your own worth. Every time you swallow your truth to avoid conflict, you confirm that your authentic self isn't acceptable. You become complicit in your own devaluation. The people you're trying so hard to win over can smell this desperation from miles away. They can sense that you need them more than they need you. And human nature being what it is, they'll use that imbalance to their advantage. Not necessarily out of malice, but because power abhors a vacuum, and you've created one where your self-respect should be. They'll take your endless giving for granted. They'll push your boundaries because you've shown them you don't really have any. They'll treat you like an option because you've made yourself so available that you've lost all mystery, all challenge, all intrigue. This is the unconscious dance you've been performing your entire life. You give and give and give, hoping that your generosity will be rewarded with the love you crave, but instead it's met with indifference or even contempt. Because deep down, we all know that what comes too easily has no value. We all know that what we can get for free isn't worth having. We all know that the person who will do anything for us probably doesn't respect themselves enough to be worth our respect. You've been operating from what Jung called the puer aeternus complex, the eternal child who never learned that real love isn't something you chase, but something you attract through your own wholeness. You've been stuck in the infantile position where you believe that if you just try hard enough, if you just give enough, if you just perform well enough, the unavailable parent will finally see you, will finally choose you, will finally give you the love you've been craving since childhood. But that parent isn't coming. That validation isn't coming. That external source of worth isn't coming because it doesn't exist. It never existed. It was always supposed to come from within. Machiavelli understood that respect is not given, it's taken, not through force or manipulation, but through the quiet authority that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to negotiate on that truth. When you stop seeking external validation, when you stop performing for love, when you stop trying to prove your worth to people who should feel honored by your presence, that's when the entire dynamic shifts. That's when you step into your true power. The person who doesn't need your approval becomes immediately more interesting than the person who does. The person who can walk away becomes more valuable than the person who will stay no matter how they're treated. The person who loves themselves enough to set boundaries becomes more attractive than the person who has none. This isn't game playing or manipulation. This is the natural law of human psychology that Machiavelli observed in the corridors of power, and that Jung recognized in the depths of the psyche. Your unconscious has been trying to tell you this through every failed relationship, every one-sided friendship, every situation where you gave more than you received. The pattern keeps repeating because the lesson hasn't been learned yet. You keep attracting people who can't love you properly because you don't love yourself properly. You keep finding yourself in dynamics where you're the giver and they're the taker because you've made taking your love so easy that it loses all value. Look at your romantic relationships. Look at your friendships. Look at your professional dynamics. The same pattern emerges everywhere, doesn't it? You're always the one reaching out first, always the one making plans, always the one apologizing, always the one accommodating, always the one sacrificing. And what do you get in return? Breadcrumbs, lukewarm responses, half-hearted commitments. People who show up when it's convenient for them and disappear when it's not. People who take your consistency for granted and your loyalty for weakness. You've trained them to treat you this way. Every time you accepted less than you deserved, you taught them that less was enough. Every time you forgave without accountability, you taught them that there were no real consequences for treating you poorly. Every time you prioritized their comfort over your own dignity, you taught them that your dignity wasn't worth protecting. And the most painful part? They learned the lesson perfectly. But what if you stopped? What if you withdrew your energy from the marketplace of approval and invested it back into yourself? What if you became so fascinating to yourself that other people's opinions became merely interesting data points rather than life or death verdicts on your worth? What if you loved yourself so completely that anyone who couldn't see your value simply revealed their own blindness? This is what Machiavelli meant when he spoke of the prince who rules through virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but the kind of inner strength that comes from self-possession, from knowing your own power and wielding it wisely. The prince doesn't beg for loyalty. His character commands it. The prince doesn't perform for love. His authenticity attracts it naturally. The prince doesn't chase respect. His presence demands it. You've been approaching relationships like a beggar when you should be approaching them like a sovereign. You've been offering your crown to anyone who would wear it instead of wearing it yourself. You've been seeking validation from people who should be seeking your favor, not the other way around. The entire paradigm has been inverted, and that's why nothing has been working. The wounded child within you believes that love is scarce, that you have to compete for it, that you have to earn it through performance and sacrifice. But the integrated adult within you knows that love is abundant when it flows from a place of wholeness rather than need. The integrated adult knows that the love worth having doesn't require you to diminish yourself to receive it. The integrated adult knows that anyone who requires you to be less than you are, to earn their affection, doesn't deserve access to your full self. Look at the people you admire most. Look at the ones who command respect without effort, who attract love without chasing it, who seem to have this magnetic quality that draws others to them. What do they have in common? They're not trying. They're not performing. They're not seeking anything from anyone. They're complete within themselves, and that completeness is what makes them irresistible. They've learned what you're learning now, that the moment you stop needing something from people, you become someone people need. They understand that scarcity creates value, that mystery creates desire, that boundaries create respect. They know that the person who is hardest to get is often the person most worth getting. They've mastered the art of being present without being available, of being kind without being weak, of being open without being desperate. When you truly understand this, when you integrate this truth into your bones, everything changes. You stop texting first all the time. You stop being available at everyone else's convenience. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You stop giving pieces of yourself to people who haven't earned them. You stop making other people's emotional states more important than your own. You start choosing quality over quantity in your relationships. You start valuing consistency over intensity. You start expecting reciprocity rather than accepting one-sidedness. You start walking away from situations that require you to convince someone of your worth. You start understanding that your time, your energy, your attention, your love. These are precious commodities that should be invested wisely, not given away freely to anyone who shows you the slightest bit of interest. And yes, some people will be confused by this new version of you. Some will try to guilt you back into your old patterns. They'll tell you you've changed, that you're not the same person they used to know. They'll accuse you of being selfish or cold or difficult. Let them. Their discomfort with your boundaries is evidence that those boundaries were needed. Their resistance to your self-respect is proof that they were benefiting from your self-abandonment. The people who truly belong in your life will not only respect your newfound strength, they'll be attracted to it. This is the great paradox that Machiavelli understood, and that your shadow has been trying to teach you. The less you need love, the more love you attract. The less you chase respect, the more respect you command. The more complete you become within yourself, the more others want to be part of your completeness. You become magnetic not because you're trying to attract anyone, but because you're so content in your own company that others can't help but wonder what you know that they don't. Your shadow has been carrying this truth for you, waiting for you to be ready to receive it. Every resentment you felt when someone didn't appreciate your efforts, every moment of bitterness when your kindness wasn't returned, every time you felt taken advantage of, these were your shadow's attempts to wake you up to your own power. Your shadow knew that you were giving away what should be earned, offering freely what should be treasured, making yourself common when you should be rare. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your forgotten power. It holds all the strength you gave away in your desperate attempts to be loved. It contains all the boundaries you dissolved in your need to be accepted. It carries all the self-respect you sacrificed on the altar of other people's approval. When you reclaim your shadow, when you integrate those rejected parts of yourself, you become whole. You become powerful. You become someone who commands respect naturally because you respect yourself completely. The journey from wanting to be loved to commanding respect isn't about becoming cold or heartless. It's about becoming so warm toward yourself that you don't need others to provide the heat. It's about becoming so full of your own love that you overflow naturally, giving not from desperation, but from abundance. It's about becoming so interesting to yourself that you stop being boring to others. When you reach this place, and you will reach it, because your soul won't let you stay stuck forever, you'll understand what Machiavelli really meant. You'll understand that the person who needs nothing from you is the person you most want to give everything to. You'll understand that the person who can walk away is the person you most want to stay. You'll understand that the person who respects themselves is the person others can't help but respect. The transformation happens gradually, then all at once. First, you'll notice that you're less reactive to other people's moods and opinions. Then you'll find yourself naturally setting boundaries that you would have been too afraid to set before. You'll start choosing solitude over bad company, silence over false agreement, your own approval over everyone else's. You'll begin to see that most of what you thought was love was actually fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being rejected, fear of not being enough. And as these fears lose their grip on you, as you learn to be your own source of validation and worth, something miraculous happens. The very love you were chasing begins to chase you. The respect you were begging for starts to be offered freely. The acceptance you were performing for becomes natural and effortless. Not because you're playing games or manipulating anyone, but because you've finally become someone worth loving and respecting. Starting with yourself, you'll start to notice how differently people respond to you. The energy will shift in rooms when you enter them. People will listen more carefully when you speak because you'll speak less frequently and more intentionally. Your presence will carry weight because it won't be diluted by desperation or weakened by need. You'll discover that mystery is more powerful than transparency, that unavailability is more attractive than constant availability, that self-possession is more magnetic than accommodation. This is not about playing hard to get or manipulating others through artificial scarcity. This is about recognizing your own value so completely that you naturally protect it, cherish it, and share it only with those who demonstrate that they can handle it with care. This is about understanding that your love, your time, your energy, your attention, these are gifts, not obligations. They should be given freely, but not carelessly, offered generously, but not indiscriminately. The people in your life should feel honored to receive these gifts, not entitled to them. And if they don't feel honored, if they take your generosity for granted, if they treat your consistency as weakness rather than strength, then they've revealed something important about themselves. They're not worthy of what you have to offer. Machiavelli would have understood this perfectly. He knew that power comes not from needing others, but from others needing you. He knew that respect comes not from serving everyone, but from serving yourself first and choosing carefully whom to serve next. He knew that love comes not from chasing it desperately, but from being so complete within yourself that others are naturally drawn to your wholeness. Your shadow knows this too. It's been trying to tell you through every moment of anger when someone didn't appreciate you, every flash of resentment when your efforts went unnoticed, every surge of bitterness when your love wasn't returned. These emotions weren't signs of your badness or your inadequacy. They were signals from your unconscious that something was wrong with the dynamic, that you were giving away your power, that you were betraying yourself in service of others who hadn't earned such devotion. The path forward is clear, even if it's not easy. You must learn to love yourself with the same intensity that you've been loving others. You must learn to prioritize your own needs with the same dedication that you've been prioritizing everyone else's. You must learn to speak to yourself with the same kindness that you've been offering to people who barely notice your efforts. You must learn to be your own best friend, your own greatest supporter, your own most loyal companion. When you do this, when you become the love of your own life, something extraordinary happens. You stop looking for yourself in other people's eyes and start seeing yourself clearly in your own. You stop waiting for external validation and start generating internal approval. You stop performing for love and start embodying it naturally. This is your liberation. This is your power. This is your throne. The moment you stop wanting to be loved by everyone is the moment you become lovable to the right people. The moment you stop needing respect from anyone is the moment you command respect from everyone. The moment you become complete within yourself is the moment you become irresistible to others. Machiavelli knew this. Your shadow knows this. And now, finally, you know this too. The question is, will you claim it? Will you step into this power? Will you stop being a beggar and start being a king? Will you stop chasing what should be attracted to you and start attracting what you're truly worthy of? The choice is yours. But remember, every day you continue to seek love from those who can't see your worth is another day you postpone the respect that's waiting for you on the other side of self-possession. The love you're seeking is seeking you too, but it can only find you when you stop running toward everyone else and start standing still in your own power. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Claim your throne.